welcome to Queers and Quills, the official podcast. I'm audiobook narrator Kirt Graves. Every episode, I invite an attending author or narrator to join me for a one-on-one conversation about their lives and their art, so attendees and readers from across the world can get to know them not only as professionals, but as people. Joining me today is Karelia Stetz-Waters. Karelia is author of the sapphic rom-coms Behind the Scenes and Satisfaction Guaranteed, which was shortlisted for Amazon's Best Romances of 2021. She co-authored her most recent books, Second Nightstand and Taste of Love, with her wife, Faye Stetz-Waters. She's passionate about spreading cliteracy and writing sex-positive stories that encourage readers to celebrate their sexuality. She brings to life stories that resonate deeply with readers, showcasing the importance of open dialogue and mutual respect in relationships. What a concept. Welcome to the podcast, Karelia. It's so nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. What is your author origin story?
So ever since I was a teenager, out in the 90s, I really wanted to be published. I wanted to be a writer, and I wanted to write fun queer stories, and I wanted to be published by one of the big mainstream publishing houses. That is in no way to throw shade on small presses and queer presses and indie authors, because those small presses have published books that literally save people's lives. And there are tons of indie writers who are more popular than I am. However, at that time in the 90s, there was no queer genre fiction getting published by the big five publishing conglomerates. And I wanted in. We weren't there, and I wanted a seat at the table. It took 5 books, 3 published and 2 unpublished, never published, before my first romance got picked up by a Hachette Book Group imprint, and another 3 books until my first print run book. So they took a risk with me, but a little risk, because the first 3 books I published with them were print on demand and ebook only. And then Satisfaction Guaranteed came out in paper. And for the first time ever, people noticed me. I was beloved. People talked about my brilliant debut novel. And I was like, no, it's number 8 or 7. But thank you anyways. So what they say, I was a overnight success after 10 years of hard work and suffering. Mm-hmm. And
a lot of nights.
A lot of nights. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And thanks to my agent and publisher for hanging in there with me. It's been a long journey, and I think I am one of the first sapphic romance writers to publish with a big mainstream publishing house. Very cool.
Very cool to see that dream realized.
It's fun. A lot of hard work, but it was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said you were growing up in the 90s and seeing this and creating this goal. Were you a big reader as a kid?
Huge reader. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You always knew that writing is what you wanted to do?
Yeah, ever since I was, before I could read, I wanted to record stories, and my mother would set out a cassette recorder for me so that I could tell and preserve my stories. When I was 10, I wrote a novel, I called it, and it came out to about 100 typed pages. So Real dedication. Came home from school every day, sat down, worked on my novel. So it's something, it's in my bones. It's what I've always wanted to do, tell stories.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking about myself at 10. If I was typing up 100 pages, I think it might have been on a typewriter. I don't think we had an at-home computer back then.
It was my beloved mother who typed up my handwritten pages on her typewriter. Isn't that sweet?
That's amazing. Does that still exist somewhere?
I still have the handwritten version. I think I must have the typed version somewhere. The treasured memory.
Yeah. That's so cool. Love a supportive mom. Mm-hmm. So, in part of your goal, very specifically, was writing sapphic characters, and you talked about it's because how you just didn't see that in the world. Does that continue to be important to you? And like, how do you approach writing queer characters in your stories?
Oh, it's very important to me. I don't think I would be particularly interested in writing straight protagonists. There are already so many people writing straight protagonists successfully. They don't need my voice in that arena. I love writing sapphic romance, and even the books I've written that were thrillers, say, had a romance at their core. And I think it's because when I was a teenager, finding a woman who loved me, who I loved, seemed like this impossible dream, this impossible hope. I was in Oregon in high school in the 90s, and it was a very violent time, anti-gay legislation, all the stuff we're seeing now in a lot of the southern states was going on in Oregon. And I think more physically violent, people beaten, killed, houses shot up, firebombed. It was really a scary time. And I was out in high school, only lesbian that I knew or knew I knew. Obviously, I knew lesbians, but I didn't know that they were. And so finding love, it was like the Holy Grail. And every story I write has a little bit of that teenager's dream in it, like that, just that feeling that if I could find my true love, the world would be healed. And I did find my true love at 22, and we've been together now 25 going on 26 years.
Wow.
Really, really lucky.
That's so cool. Congratulations. And
thank you.
Congratulations on the circumstance, but also the hard work that goes into relationships the last 25, 26 years.
She's an absolute joy. Absolute joy.
Yeah. And you co-write with her.
Yeah. We co-wrote Second Night Stand that came out last year. And we have a new one coming out in July, Taste the Love. And I just got the art today, so I have to raise one up.
Yes, very nice.
Cover illustrated by one of my very favorite illustrator, Vanessa Kelly, who did a lot of art for Red, White, and Royal Blue. She's amazing. Now I've forgotten what the question was.
No, there wasn't really one. I was just commenting how cool it was that you write with your wife. Whenever I meet people who can work successfully with their spouses, I am amazed. I think that that's wonderful. Not for me, but I think it's so cool when other people can do it. And it seems like this is a recent development as well, which means you were together for a long time and then said, what's a good idea? Let's also add another level of stress to our relationship.
And we work from home together too. So we are in each other's pockets. We both have offices that we go into sometimes, but she especially does the most of her work from home, and I am on sabbatical. I'm faculty on sabbatical, so I'm at home a lot too. And we make it work. We totally make it work.
Yeah.
Fun to have her around. She's a great chef, and when she's stressed, she cooks, and she has a very stressful job. So especially during COVID, I ate better than anyone else, hands down. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds incredible. Sign me up.
I was very, very fortunate. She made soup dumplings from scratch one time in her lunch break.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're making us all look bad right now. All of us pale in comparison, but that's really cool.
Left to my own devices, I would eat steamed broccoli and ramen every day.
Even that's a healthier choice than I would make. So good for you. You talked about in your bio a little bit about writing characters who have like mature, healthy connections with one another. Why is that part of how you identify yourself as a writer?
There's some romance novels I'll read where they have a third act breakup that's so bitter or cold or prolonged that having read this whole story thinking, oh, they're going to fall in love, it's so beautiful, get to that third act breakup, and even though, of course, they get together at the end, the breakup is so bitter that I can't imagine these two people actually making it as a couple. Like, where the miscommunication is so great. I'm like, this is not the foundation for love. And so I want to write romance novels where I, at least, am completely convinced in the couple's ability to have a happily ever after. And a huge part of that is good communication, healthy relationships, being kind to one another, even when things aren't going to plan. And I also think we queer writers have a wonderful gift that we can give our heterosexual readers, because heterosexual gender roles, gender norms are so toxic to relationships, but they're so pervasive that they become invisible. And queer people are raised up in the same society with the same gender stereotype. So it's not like we're free of that. But at some level, we can't take those rules at quite as seriously, because if my wife and I both say taking the trash out is a man's job, the trash will never get taken out. So I feel like we get a glimmer of the emperor is not wearing any clothes when it comes to those entrenched gender norms. And in a queer romance, I can show my readers a different model, and a model that I think pays more attention to the individual as opposed to slotting them into a gender role and then allowing them personality.
Yeah, I love that. Was that something that's been intentional from the beginning, or is it something you realized over time that you were doing, and then realized, oh, this is why it matters?
It's been, whether or not I don't know that I've consciously done it in my writing the whole time, but it's something I've been thinking about ever since I was a teenager. Thinking as a teenager, gosh, it is hard to be queer, but I don't think I want to trade for a different experience, because there was so much to learn from being queer. There was so much freedom in being queer, despite society's restrictions. So it's always been in the back of my mind that, of course, there are dysfunctional queer relationships, but there are just a few areas where I think it's a little bit easier for us. And those are things that heterosexual couples who may be struggling with their relationship because they are so locked into these toxic roles. I have something to give them that they can have, they can take, they can translate into their relationships to the degree that they want. And I don't know, I recommend it. I love being a lesbian. It's worked out for me.
I recommend it. I think that's great. Me too. Cosign. Be queer. It's more fun. And there is a certain point in your life when it becomes freeing, after you get through all the bullshit where it feels very limiting. But, as adults seeking relationships, we do have the ability to make our own rules. And I know I'm guilty of it. Like, I didn't necessarily realize that when I was young and first starting to date and try to make relationships with people. I followed the model that I was taught, which was never going to work for me, which maybe was the intention of teaching me that model so that I wouldn't ever break the norm or try to seek something outside of that. So you are now making me think in retrospect about the 250 books I've narrated, and I have to go through my mental Rolodex now and see how many of them really represent queer relationships that I think would be great for, great representation for young people to read. And it's something I get to think about now as I move forward, in my work and reading all these stories.
That must be an amazing experience to be a narrator. I just love audiobooks and so much respect for that craft. Faye and I were just listening to audition tapes for the readers for Taste the Love.
Oh, yeah.
And
love that.
just so much fun to see how different people interpreted the characters. It's such a gift.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It is a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun. I'm curious, before we stop talking about your writing and move on, like what your influences have been as you were growing up, or even now as an adult writer. Like who inspires you? What inspires you?
Growing up, I was shaped by three writers, just profoundly shaped by three writers. Jeanette Winterson was one, Garrison Keillor was another, and the erotica of Anais Nin was the third. And it is a grab bag of different influences.
Yeah.
So I loved The Passion by Jeanette Winterson. And as a teenager, I thought it was tremendously romantic. I read it as an adult and I was like, oh my gosh, this is tragic. This is so bleak, but made a huge impression on me. And then Garrison Keillor is classic idyllic Americana. Just, my grandparents' hometown Americana. And then Anais Nin's erotica to the modern reader would be so incredibly inappropriate. Every line that you should not cross, it crosses.
Okay, all right.
But I was 18 and it was the 90s, and I don't know. I think that probably explains a lot of my personality. They're like, "Who's Karelia?" Oh, she was 18 in the 90s. That's it. I was mesmerized by Nin's erotica, and paired that love of whatever else you might say about her erotica being politically incorrect, which isn't quite the right term, but risque. It looked at sex pretty head on, unembarrassed, unashamed. And that approach to sexuality combined with this kind of sweet down home, everything works out okay because people are good sort of story. Those two things hand in hand really made me the writer that I am. I love writing humorous pieces that have just as they're funny, there's just ring a little note of tragedy or sadness. And just as it seems really sad, then just put in that note of humor because there's always a little spark of humor. And I just love that balance. And then rom-coms is where I've landed for the last few years. And so that's a great place to balance this mostly fun and lighthearted with a little bit of seriousness and unembarrassed look at sex.
I like that, an unembarrassed look at sex. Yes. We could have a much bigger conversation about like what it means to write something that might be considered taboo, or like what today would have content warnings back in the day. But we'll have to save that for some time in Portland, maybe at a bar.
Sounds good to me. Count me in.
So if somebody was coming to your work for the very first time, where would you want them to start?
If you were to start with the books I've written solo, then I would start with Satisfaction Guaranteed, which is about a sexually inexperienced woman who inherits a bankrupt sex toy store. That's my brilliant debut novel after writing 7 others. And then I would love for people to check out Second Nightstand, which is the first book that Faye and I co-authored. And it is definitely spicy. And I think the sexuality is portrayed in a really fun, on the page, opposite of closed door way that I hope people feel the celebration of sexuality that's on the page. And of course, a wonderful love story. Classically trained ballerina and a burlesque performer meet on a reality television show competing against each other and fall in love, of course.
Oh my gosh. You are very good at like hooking an audience with these book blurbs. Nicely done.
Thank you. The condensing it down to one sentence is hard. I teach a lot of creative writing.
I can only imagine.
That one sentence is going to be harder than the rest of the book.
I believe it. I believe it. But I wanna read them. Inherits a bankrupt sex store. A ballerina and a burlesque dancer meet on a reality television show. Yes. Say less. I'm in. I'm in. So I want to make sure we have some time to play our little game. So the rules of our game are simple. I have a deck of cards, and on each card is a question. The questions aim to learn more about you. Some are biographical, some are hypothetical, some are silly. But I will not be picking which questions you have to answer. Fate is. I'm going to deal 3 cards every round, and you choose one, and whichever card you pick, you agree to answer, with a couple of exceptions. So, if a question comes along that you don't want to answer, you have 2 opportunities to switch things up. You can turn the tables on me one time, forcing me to answer the question, or you can also discard a personal question in favor of answering a more bookish question from the white deck. But then you have to answer whatever question gets dealt. We'll only deal 1 card, and who knows what fate might have in store for you.
Okay,
Are you ready to
excited.
play?
Yes, let's
Awesome.
play.
All right, round 1. What is your favorite microwavable food?
My favorite microwavable food, microwave popcorn. Pretty conventional.
That's a good answer. No, that's right.
With brown sugar on it, so that you make a kind of caramel corn flavor.
Ooh. Do you sprinkle it on after? Well, obviously, you can't put it in the bag before. What's the proper ratio? Like, how much brown sugar are we putting in the bag?
I'm putting in like a third of a cup per bag.
Okay.
Which is a lot. But it all falls to the bottom. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Ooh, I might have to try that tonight.
Definitely.
Okay. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Card 2.
Card 2. What is the weirdest thing you've seen in someone else's home?
Oh, that is a good one. Oh my gosh. A jar of human teeth.
Yep.
So,
that'll do it.
in my grandma's house, my dad and I were cleaning up her house after she moved in with us. And she had saved all the teeth with gold caps from the whole family because the gold was valuable, but apparently she had never sent it in anywhere to get the money for it. So she had a jar of human teeth with gold caps. And I remember I was about, 11. And my dad hands it to me. He's like, "Hey, Karelia, check this out." And I see it. I figure out what it is. I like scream and I throw it into the trash and the jar breaks. And he's like,
"Oh no,
they're loose now."
Oh God.
In addition to being 18 in the 90s, I think having a grandma with a jar full of human teeth it defined a lot of who I am.
We're learning so much about you. All right, card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Card 1.
Okay. What would be the absolute worst name that you could give a child?
Oh, I went to high school with this name. I hope he's not listening. This must have been an unplanned pregnancy and someone was mad. His last name was Sprick and his first name was Richard. So
dear.
that came out Dick Sprick.
Oh, poor kid.
That somebody hated their child before he was even born. It's not fair.
Oh, yeah, I know. So, yeah, I disliked him or really did not think things through.
Or did not think things through. Like, maybe it was a family name and they're like, you know what? Every first son has been Richard and we just can't. Of course, then every son would have been Dick Sprick.
Right. He would have been Dick Sprick the third or fourth, or maybe he was. Maybe there was a whole Dick Sprick lineage that we're unaware of.
Possibly.
Yeah, I do feel like parents who are naming their child Richard really need to think through the middle and last name. Because even if there's a combination of the middle and last name that could make it weird, like you just got to know, even if you don't want them to go by Dick, somebody somewhere in their life is going to point it out.
It's absolutely true.
So,
That's a fraught name.
It really is. It really is. Oh, okay. Card 1, 2, or 3. Sorry, say that again?
Right.
3. Okay. So if you work in an office and you had show and tell for adults, what thing would you be proud to display?
Oh, show and tell for adult in the office, I would be proud to display one of my students' creative pieces. Probably a piece of a short story that one of them had written.
That's very cool. I like that. All right. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
3.
All right. What do you value most in your friends?
Oh, I love my friends so much. Their kindness, their dependability. That I am so fortunate to have so many wonderful friends that I can count on and love, and I only have one living blood relative, so my friends are truly my family.
Yeah. Are you someone who holds on to friendships for a long time? Do you have friends from like high school and college?
Oh, yeah. One of my very good friends, we met the summer before middle school. So we've known each other for a long time.
That's great. That's very cool. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
1.
Okay. If you got to pick a new name for yourself, what would it be?
Oh, you know what? I'm going to throw that one back to you.
So here's the thing about my name. So my name is Kirt Daniel Graves. Kirt was my mom's maiden name. Daniel is my dad's name. And obviously Graves was his last name. So I was always really bummed about the fact that like no part of my name was original. It was just like, I was one of those predetermined names because if they had a son, it was going to be this, and it had nothing to do with who I was. So I would want something that just like, I don't know, had some fun, some personality. Like, and I don't think I'd care what it is, but it would be fun if it was just like a, I don't know, Bryce or Lane or something a little out of the ordinary, a little quirky, a little gay, you know, just that like would have been more about who the child they thought I might be versus like it's just very predetermined. And like my brother's name is Eric, and I'm like, well, why Eric? And they're like, I don't know, we just liked it, sounded good, we thought it was nice. I was like, totally different.
That absolutely makes sense. A name that is looking forward to your life as opposed to noting what has already been. Right.
Now, I will say, and they would have never had any idea that this was going to happen, but growing up in the age of the internet, the fact that I spell my name Kirt because it's my mom's maiden name, I have never had trouble getting a screen name because nobody else spells their name my way. So
my parents have blessed me with the same thing. People are like, yes. Oh, what's your name on Venmo? I'm like, how many Karelia Stetz-Waters do you think you're going to find on Venmo?
Just Google it.
Yeah, I always get the URL I want.
Exactly. All right, we have time for one more round. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Card 2.
Card 2. If peanut butter wasn't called peanut butter, what would it be called?
I don't know if this is the note I want to end on, but I suppose it's a happy story because my mother and grandmother and grandparents survived. They were war refugees, and they lived in refugee camps for some years. And the Americans... my family's Estonian. The Americans sent peanut butter to the refugee camps because it's good protein, it's inexpensive, it's shelf stable. Well, the Estonians had never had peanut butter. I don't even know if they'd ever had peanuts. I don't even know how many nuts were part of the more traditional Estonian diet.
Right.
They called it monkey shit because even when you were in the refugee camps and food was scarce, they're like, this stuff, like, we don't know what's in those jars and we don't feel good about it. So there you go.
Yeah, I think that's a great note to end on.
Well, can I leave you with one last thing? I know one phrase in Estonian. I know a couple phrases in Estonian, but my mom didn't teach me the language. So But I know Sutro Karuduleb, which means shit quickly, the bear is coming. Your listeners won't need that often, but when they need it, you'll be glad to have that. They'll be glad to have that phrase.
Make sure you bookmark this podcast in your podcast player if you plan on needing that phrase in the future. Oh, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this. I really appreciate it.
This was delightful. Absolutely loved it. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, listeners, for joining us for Queers and Quills, the official podcast. If you're already signed up to attend Queers and Quills, make sure to say hello to me and to Karelia at the Oregon Convention Center in May. And if you're not, follow Queers and Quills on Instagram so you can see all the fun we're having this year and then get notifications about ticket availability in the future. Until next time, I'm Kirt Graves, and I hope you're having a very gay day. Queers and Quills, the official podcast, is produced and hosted by Kirt Graves, in coordination with Mahogany Mail and Marley Valentine. All copyrighted material is shared with permission. Music and sound effects are licensed through Storyblocks Audio. All opinions shared are those of the individuals and do not reflect the positions or policies of any company or organization with which they happen to be associated.